So guys, we're going to start chapter 3. You can ask me to do anything anytime. You can ask me to do something from your past exams. You can ask me to do something from your homework. We are recording. I'm pretty sure I can see it. So just so that you know, we're starting chapter 3. Chapter 3 is kind of the opposite of what we have been doing. But the good news is it's really not that bad. And there's one little thing you have to kind of pay attention to. We're going to go over. So guys, it's the unit circle. Okay. For instance, this probably came from your book, chapter 2. So for instance, so far, we have been doing something like this: sine 30 degrees or sine pi over 6. They're the same. And you can look at the unit circle. You can do it in your head by moving the triangle. Sine is the y coordinate. This turns out to be half. Okay. So we were given the angle, and we need to find this, the value of sine of 30 or sine of pi over 6. So I'll give you one more example, okay? And I'll give you one more example. So I'm going to go a little slowly. It'll seem a little weird today, just a little bit, because it's a new chapter. So for instance, we did cosine. Let me write it down. We did cosine pi over 4 square root of 2 over square root of 2 over 2. And it comes from the unit circle. Cosine is here's the angle, pi over 4. And cosine is this y coordinate. That's how you're going to write it. Now, the catch is they're not going to give you this. They're going to do the opposite. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. For instance, they're going to tell you find theta if sine theta, and let's say theta is in radian. Okay. Let's say theta is in radian. Generally, it will be in radian, but it doesn't matter. Let's say, where is this half? Okay, so you will look at the unit circle and you're going to say, okay, this has to be this angle. This is negative half, and this is sine theta. So you can call it negative 30 degrees, or you can call it, if you go like this, it's going to be negative 30. If you go like this, it's going to be positive 330. We're going to call it negative 330 for sine. That's something you want to pay attention to. So for sine, if I ask you to find the angle and if I give you a value, you only look at this area. Now you might wonder why. Well, other part is exactly the same. The sine value is negative half. The sine value is negative half here. So they want to make sure everybody gives a unique answer. And mathematicians have decided when they ask you to find the value of sine theta, you look for the answer in angle in the first and the fourth quadrant. Okay, so bear with me. It's kind of arbitrary. They have decided that for you. You don't look for the answer in the second or the third quadrant. For cosine, you look at the answer here in the first and the second quadrant. Okay, so we're going to write it down. It's something you want to remember. And there is a nice box. I'll show you. Well, I can show you the box right now. I'm going to just show you for sine and cosine, okay, for now. And we'll do tan in a second. So for sine, you look for the answer. And don't worry too much about these symbols. We're going to get to it. Okay, don't worry too much about the symbols. For sine, you look for the answer negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. That's what we mean when we say from here to here. All right. For cosine, let's see what cosine is. It is kind of what we say it is. Again, don't worry about the symbol. They are saying for cosine, they want you to find the answer in the first and the third quadrant. You don't go beyond because it is going to be the same. For cosine values are x coordinate. The x coordinate for this is going to be same as this. The y coordinate, x coordinate for this is going to be the same as this. So let's do some problems. Okay. One more tiny thing. It's about symbols, nothing serious. It's about now, it's so for sine, I want theta to be in this range. Let me write it down. Pi over 2 less than or equal to, and I'm just going to put comma if you don't mind. It's just easier for me to write pi over 2. That simply means in these quadrants. In these quadrants. All right. Now for cosine, we said in the first and the second quadrant, how do we write it? I'm going to write sine here so that you know sine, your solution should be there. All right. This is a little annoying, but we'll see what we can do. I see what's going on. That's fine. I know what's going on. Excuse me. All right. All right. So I'm going to write sine here for sine. This is going to be the deal. And for cosine, and yes, you have to remember it and you can write it down. It's in the little box. And for cosine, you look for the answer. You look for the answer in the first and the second quadrant. How do we write it? Right here. Now, there is one more catch, guys. They're not going to make it so simple. They're going to say sine theta is negative f, find sine theta. They're not going to say it like that. They're going to say it in a slightly different way. This is, and then I'm going to show you the symbol. This is equivalent to sine inverse negative half is equal to theta. Okay. This can be written as this. All right. And the same thing holds for cosine and sine. If they said, find this, find theta, it would almost seem too easy, right? That's not the reason why they do it, but they're going to write it like this. Now you can rewrite it like this and say, if it's sine, I'm going to find the angle value of theta in this range. If the question is cosine, I'm going to find the angle value in this range, in the first and the second quadrant, in the first and the fourth quadrant. And generally, here we say it's negative, like this. That's the custom. When we go like this, we go positive for sine. So let me give you one more example. And we'll tell you one more tiny thing, and then we should be able to do some of the problems. Give me 1 second. Same thing is true for cosine, okay? Let me give you an example. They can ask me, okay? They can ask me cosine theta is equal to, let's make it up, Cosine theta is, let me just say negative square root of 3 over 2. Negative. And these are all numbers that are coming from the unit circle. Negative square root of 3 over 2. All right. Now, clearly, if my theta has to be in the first and the second quadrant, clearly they're talking about this, and the angle is going to be 150. Okay, that's easy. You can call it 150 or you can call it 5 pi over 6, your choice, depending on what they're looking for. But they're not going to say it like this. They're going to say it like this. They're going to say cosine, let me write it nicely. They're not going to say it like this. They're going to say it like this. They're going to say it like this. That's the only catch. And they want you to find, if it's cosine, they want you to find theta in the first and the second quadrant. If it's sine, they want you to find the value of theta in the first and the fourth quadrant. And for tangent, we're going to do a bunch of problems. Let me go back and check. I think tangent is same as sine. Okay. Tangent is same as sine. Tangent is also this. Okay. The way I keep it straight, um, cosine and cosine's buddy, secant, reciprocal. And C for cosine, C for cotangent. For cotangent, cosine, and secant, you go for this range, the first and the third quadrant. And for the other three, sine, cosecant, and tangent, you go for this. And there are a few problems that'll challenge you a little bit, so be a little patient. Okay, we're going to do them, but first we're going to do some of the real easy ones, and this will give you a chance to kind of understand what's going on. Any questions, guys? Any questions? You want to have your unit circled around, you want to have these little boxes. Well, in the first chapter we are only talking about sine, cosine, and tangent in the first section, and we're going to be talking about more in the next section. Cosine 0 through pi, and tangent negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, and sine is the same. Any questions, guys? All right, guys, wonderful. Let's see what kind of problems we have. 3.1 problems. Let me grab a couple. Okay, so some of these are fairly straightforward. I will use the unit circle, but really some of you won't even need it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some of the real easy ones today. Okay, simple ones. Let's do number 15. Okay, just to let you know, we are doing sine and cosine. We are looking for our angle in the first and the fourth quadrant. And for cosine, sine and tangent, I'm sorry, for sine and tangent, we're looking for the answer in the first and the fourth quadrant. For cosine, first and the second. Let's grab the very first problem. And let me erase some of these. I'm going to save these two here, tell you which one I will use. Put the problem, I do need the room. Now I'm going to write it like this, and I'm going to call it sine inverse 0 is theta. I like to write it like that. Okay, it helps you a lot. Sine inverse it's read inverse, inverse, 0. I'm going to say this is equal to theta. You can call it y if you want, doesn't matter. Let's just call it theta. Okay, we are looking for the angle. Now, let me read the question. What do they say? They just, well, we'll have to look at the book. I think they want you to evaluate it. Okay, so, and we will check our answers. Give me 1 second, guys, for my own sanity. Give me 1 second. So let me grab my answer key. Yeah, they want you to find the angle. Fine, we'll get to it. Don't worry too much, and I'll do it slowly. All right, guys. So let's see what's going on here. I need to find this. Remember, guys, based on how we defined it, we can always write it like this. You don't have to, but it's not a bad idea to write it. We are asking for what angle theta in this range, because it's sine, so I'm going for this. In this range, for what angle theta gives you a sine value of 0. Remember, guys, sine is the y coordinate, and out of all this, the y coordinate is 0 only here, and in that case, the angle is 0. So theta is 0. Now, this one, I'm pretty confident I'm right, but theta is 0. Theta is 0. Let me check. This is number 15. Theta is 0. So we got that right. Let's do a couple. And I know it's a people. Okay. Another thing, guys, you really want to make sure you get some of these little things, pesky little things. Okay. Because if you don't, some of the other things will seem a little blurry. It's not a very difficult concept yet. In 3.1 and 3.2, it's not going to be too difficult. I think before it kicks us out or gives us a warning, I can do one more problem. Let's do one with cosine. Okay. So let's do one with cosine. So this is number 18, and I am going to use this one. I am going to use cosine, so I'm going to use this or this, however you want to view it, and I'm going to write it properly. I like to write it like this. I'm going to say cosine -1 is equal to theta. And then I can write, by definition, I can switch it around. Cosine theta is -1. Now the question is very simple. In the upper half of the unit circle, cosine is the x coordinate. Where do you have -1? Well, right here, only here, right? And what is the value of theta? 180. You can write pi. I think the answers are in terms of pi. So I'm just going to write pi. You can easily write 180. I'm going to say the answer is pi. And I'm going to quickly go check my answer, number 18. Oh, great. Now, don't worry too much, okay? Unfortunately, guys, I number 18 cosine, I'm right, and I'll find the question. I think I have the wrong answer key here. We'll find out. We're doing tan, sine, cosine -1. There is one right here. Okay, this is 14. I don't know, the number got changed there. So I will go back and check the right edition. So cosine -1 is pi, and that's exactly what we got. Okay, guys. So the problem I have here is probably from the older edition. Don't worry too much. I'll try to find it out. And I don't think these problems are too difficult. I don't think I'll be making too many mistakes here. Okay, guys, I am going to jump out of this. It's going to kick me out anytime. I'm going to jump out of this session. I'm going to come back really fast. I'm going to do a few more problems from this section, okay? And if we don't get to wrap up this section, that's okay. All right? I'll see you soon.